We're here, Torin. We made it. It is
Season started, baby.
8:14. The season has started. Match week 1 is in the books. It's crazy that it's already
I
started,
know.
but at the same time, I've been looking forward to the start of the season so much. Uh, it was really exciting to see all the teams play. What were you looking forward to the most to this week starting?
I came into this season. It felt like, and who knows, this may be how we feel every summer, but it felt like one of the most exciting off seasons in terms of players moving, new sort of arrangements of teams, new coaches taking over talented rosters. I really was just so excited to see the season start, and like you said, it's crazy that it's already here. It felt like the season just finished, and I can only imagine if imagine we had like a World Cup over the summer, like where these players never really had any time off. It would have felt like there was zero summer that we went through. But yeah, I was just so excited to see some of these new teams come out, the lineups that they would choose to play. Some of these teams are really going to have to figure out where they're going to fit in players. Some of these teams feel like they have too many players that are going to want to play. So it's always interesting to see how that gets tackled the first week of the season. Really, I feel like you can't tell that whole story until a few weeks in. But it was just awesome to be back and going again. It's like we
Yeah.
never left.
Yeah, those mornings where you wake up and just put a match on and you're just like, oh, yes, this game is awesome. This game is sick. And I was looking forward to the new teams or new faces on new teams. And I just feel like the Premier League in our lifetime, maybe ever, I don't know, but this is probably the strongest it's ever been, I feel, because
I mean,
they
we
pretty
probably
much they own the transfer window. Like all the big names are going to the Premier League. All the money is being spent in the Premier League. There's a few here or there, like the Bayern's getting Harry Kane, and things like that. But just the amount of talent and the quality of teams, just insane. It's exciting to see it unroll.
yeah. I think the thing that brought me back the most. So obviously you have this sort of nervous anticipation for the season to start. You want to see it. You can't wait for it to kick off. But I guess what really sold it for me this weekend about why we do this, why we love it, why it stuck with us so long was actually seeing the Premier League fans back at it,
Yeah,
rooting on their teams. Some of those home stadiums were going absolutely berserk, and you could just see it on the players' faces. It's just everything we love about the Premier League.
yeah,
It's why we watch it so much, why we think it's the best league in the world.
because it is. It is.
Next week, every week.
Yeah. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I'm gonna make you drink on that because you cut out for a sec.
Oh,
But I'm sure it was amazing commentary.
yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the first game of the season, which was Man City on the road for Burnley. What a way to start. You play the champions. You get in the Premier League and you play the champions week 1. At least you get to play them at home, but it was going to be an uphill climb no matter what. And Man City took care of business 3-0. But I think the big story come out of this is Kevin De Bruyne got hurt again, his hamstring. And hamstrings are
Same injury.
not same injury. He's just going to keep pulling it and pulling it. It's so
He needs to
hard
be out
to heal
for a
100%.
while.
A while.
A while. I mean, I look at it as it's like a blessing and a curse. Yes, they're terrible injuries to recover from. You never really know. I feel like you never really know if you're like 100% healed, right? At some point, you have to take a little bit of a gamble to be like and try it, you know.
Yep.
Uh, but I'm grateful or thankful that it isn't some sort of knee injury, right, or ankle injury, right? Something where it could be more sort of career threatening. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like a muscular injury, no matter what, it's eventually very feasible to get back to 100%, right? To get back to where you were, as long as you give it enough time. So I'm grateful it's not anything like that, like we've seen with some other players across European soccer. But it does suck, man. And it seeing it happen again now in the span of a few months tells us it's going to need to be a lengthy recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me a little bit. Yes, it is recoverable, but, he's like 30, 31. Like, he's not the youngest guy anymore. And
Yeah.
they just need to be so cautious with him. Be like, hey, we have a good team. We'll be fine
Mm-hmm.
without you. We probably won't win the league without you if you're out the whole year. But if you take 2 months off, we can still be in a position to where we can win this thing.
Yeah.
And all the major competitions are in the future. I feel like now,
Yep.
like you said, is the perfect time if you're going to be injured to
Perfect
be
time.
injured. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's a time in the season when you want to be injured, it's the beginning and not the end. So, especially if you're an established player. So if there was any time for it to happen, it's a good time. But I still think coming out of the game, obviously huge loss there.
Oh, yeah.
But the other storyline, Erling Haaland picking up right where he left off
Oh, yeah.
at the end of last year, absolute robot machine in front of goal.
Was there ever a
I
doubt?
forget this. I forget the stat I told you. What was it? I think he scored. It was 2 goals on 6 touches, 9 touches.
Oh, yeah. The Clay
I think
Thompson game.
yeah, I think that's what it was, right? It was 2 goals. I think he touched the ball 9 times, and two of the
Yeah, it's efficiency.
wild. It's great.
That's awesome. Okay, let's go on to the next match. Arsenal at home for Nottingham Forest. Now, I watched this game. I didn't watch highlights. I watched the game. I wanted to see how Arsenal was. And it was domination. You got to say the first half, domination. They were clearly the better team. And then they kind of look like Arsenal a little bit, where they always make it interesting at the end. Don't really
Yeah.
close it out well. I think they got a lead. They felt comfortable, and they just didn't play as hard in the second half as they did in the first half. But newcomers, Declan Rice looked good. Kai Havertz, I have nothing more to say on him. He disappears. Somehow he
Yeah.
finds a way to just be invisible for lengthy periods of the game.
Yeah.
And
When the only positive you can say about him is that he didn't actually negatively hurt them,
yeah,
that's not a good sign,
no,
right? He was basically at just a net nothing, no positive, no negative, and he went and paid $70 million for this guy.
yeah.
It's just not a good first game.
I don't want to completely bury him because it is difficult joining a new
Oh
team
yeah,
to like seamlessly transition. But Declan Rice looked fine, just fine. He's going to fit in well. They moved Partey out to the right because Zinchenko was hurt. That was interesting. I like Partey.
yeah,
I think he's just as good as Declan Rice. And he played out on the right side and did a great job.
yeah,
I just think this Arsenal team is so much deeper. They're so much more ready for a title chase. When I feel like last year they were just, I don't know, they outpunted their coverage a little bit for using a
yeah.
different sports reference. But at the beginning of the year, you weren't like, hey, this is a title team, and they ended up in second. So I think this year
No, I
you
agree.
can look at this team like this is a title contending team.
I think so. I think they went through that experience and they seem more comfortable in the shoes that they fill now. There was a lot of expectations on them by the time they got towards the end of the season in every game, and you could see it weighing on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much on Arteta, who has a lot of experience and has been there, but on the players on the field, that was weighing very, very heavy. So they seemed, obviously this was a lower level of competition in the first game. Prop shout out to the goal that Nottingham did score, is one of the most technically sound counterattack goals I've seen. Just
Oh, yeah.
pure speed, outpacing the coverage, people trying to get back, and just showing when you fully commit to counterattacking, good things happen.
And
Full field sprint by two players immediately leads to a goal. So if there's ever a video you need to go watch to inspire a team to play counterattacking football, or to show what the power of a counterattack is, watch Nottingham's goal from this game, because it's textbook.
And that's why I was really excited for the Alanga signing, because he was a guy who created all of that. And he's so fast. He's so fast and electric. And I wonder if they're going to start him, because I feel like he should be started. But they have Gibbs White,
eventually.
who's like their guy, young talent. They got Brendan Johnson, young talent on the other side. So it's like, is he gonna jump in front of those guys? Is he gonna
I
play
see him
with
going
those
in
guys?
for Danilo. I see him in that position eventually.
You think so?
But like we said, it's the first few weeks doing some experimentation, right?
Yeah,
It's I think they'll figure it out. But he showed the flashes of what he can do, which was
absolutely,
amazing.
absolutely.
On the other side of the ball, before we move off this game, there was some negative news after the game from Arsenal. So Timber, one of the new signings in defense, sustained a knee injury. It appears, early reports, it's potentially a meniscus tear. So not the worst news possible, but probably still will require surgery and multiple months out. Not nearly as serious as an ACL or another ligament, which is good. But obviously some down news for Team Arsenal with one of their newest players.
And they already have Zinchenko out, so that's just spreads them a little
Mm-hmm.
thin across the back. So it's good that they have
Yep,
that depth. And Partey, look, he proved he can play that outside back.
he's ready.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next match on the week was Sheffield, newcomer, hosting Crystal Palace. This was a pretty competitive game. I feel like
Yeah,
Sheffield, they didn't roll over. They didn't look like, we'll get to it later, but Luton Town looked like they were overmatched. Sheffield didn't look overmatched, but they ended up losing to Crystal Palace 1-0. I, I don't have a lot to take away from this game other than the fact that Elise was not in the squad at all, which basically means it's a done deal that he is not going to be with the squad, which is a bummer because I feel like he would have really shined with this young team. And
mm-hmm.
we'll get to him in the transfer part of this of the episode after we recap the games. So, anything takeaways from
Yeah.
this for you?
I mean, all I gotta say is just I feel like the classic type of game that kind of separates the teams in the Premier League that might not be top half talent, but will compete for the middle of the table versus teams that are not that far off but are going to be in the relegation zone. They find a way to score. They find a way to win these type of games, and it's obviously you feel positive being a team like Sheffield coming in and competing. But to me, it's just a classic sign of this is a team that's not looking good. That's going to potentially be on the way down because
Yep.
all it takes is being 5% off of the next team above you, and that's enough to make you be relegated. So I felt both positive and negative from Sheffield's performance in the game. You take away positives, but for me, out of a zoomed out level, I'm very concerned for Sheffield's chances.
Definitely. I mean, I said they battled, and they did. But they're going to have to fight all
Mm-hmm.
year just to stay up. They're definitely going to be in the bottom. So
Yep,
good 3 points for Crystal Palace. That's the type of wins you need against the lesser
gotta
opponents, and
have
there
them.
aren't many of them. So take advantage. Don't let those
Gotta
points
do it.
slip.
Yep.
So huge win to start the year for them. Bournemouth hosted West Ham, and I was interested to see West Ham and how they played. Um, I feel like Bournemouth surprised me. They looked pretty strong.
Yeah,
I
they looked really good.
I thought West Ham would win in a tough one. They ended up tying 1-1, but I mean, without my boy Bowen scoring a awesome goal, they could have easily lost this game.
Hmm.
And I don't know, is it going to be same old story for West Ham where you think they're going to be better than they are, and then by the end of the year you look and they're like 16th in the table?
Yeah, this is a tough one. What shocked me the most was after I'm looking at the stats right now from the game, and Bournemouth had 63% possession, which to me is crazy against a team like West Ham with some of the players they have. Even if West Ham likes to play sort of the more traditional counterattacking style with players like Bowen,
Mm-hmm.
who you just mentioned, right? I still would expect that to be a more even distribution and possession. Maybe more like 55-45 or 56-44. In that range. So to me, that tells me that Bournemouth played very well without a lot of big names. So I think they definitely overperformed from the expectations. And I feel like West Ham was just kind of, like you said, what we expect now of West Ham. They have great players, and it just never seems like they put a full game together, right? There were flashes in the game where you're like, dude, this guy's on this team and
I
this
know, I
guy,
know.
and you're just like, dude, they should be in the top six. When you look at some of the times they play or like segments of the game, but they always have this, 10-minute span here, 5 minutes here, where they just fall back to a lower level. Until they get that out of their system, they're going to be flirting with danger.
And speaking of flirting, a lot of the big clubs, we'll also get into this later, are eyeing Paqueta, and if they lose him, that's going to be a body blow.
Yeah, it's a big
So
loss.
they got to
Yeah.
keep him. They got to keep him. Unless they have someone else that they can bring in. And let me tell you, Harry Maguire is not that answer. They came to their senses and stopped
speaking of,
that signing. So
yeah, they did just sign Ward Prowse, right? We talked about that signing.
Correct.
He wasn't in the lineup. He wasn't on the team yet for the first game. I do believe he was officially unveiled after the game this week. So I would expect him to be available and potentially in the lineup this weekend. So we'll see, especially if there's a move with Paqueta, what they decide to do formationally.
yeah. Okay. Next match, Brighton Luton Town. Luton Town, I'm pretty confident in my pick that this is going to be their one and only year in the Premier League.
Yep.
But Brighton is a tough team to go to and play for your first match. Even with the guys that they lost, they're still good. And I got to say, João Pedro, their new signing, Brazilian striker, looked good.
Looks
real
good.
good.
He looks scary.
Oh, man, I'm so happy I picked him for my fantasy team.
Same. Yeah.
But they look good. Matoma, stud. Like, they're going to be just fine.
Yep.
Anything for you from this game?
Yeah, I mean, just same old Brighton. 4-1 victory is, exactly out of last year. So great signs for them with the players they lost, and some of the uncertainty with players that were technically still on the team as we were going into the weekend. You could expect a team to be maybe a little dysfunctional and out of sorts, and that was absolutely not what we saw. So yeah, great kickoff performance for Brighton. And sorry, Luton, but enjoy it while you're up.
Yeah. Everton hosted Fulham, and Fulham got a late goal to win this 1-0 on the road. Huge 3 points for Fulham. And Everton looked a little better than I would expect, but again, I think it's the same old story for me, like we just talked about with Sheffield and Crystal Palace, where in this case Fulham is the middle team and Everton is the bottom feeder, which are going to struggle. And it's an important 3 points for Fulham to take in order to maintain that. And for Everton, without Calvert-Lewin, who was not in the lineup today, no shot to score. They had a lot of chances, just couldn't take it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was pleasantly surprised with how Everton played as a team. They were creating chances. They weren't just like in a shell, scared to play out. They were creating, in the final third. But without somebody like Calvert-Lewin, they had no shot of scoring. Maupay just had so many chances he couldn't find a way to score.
So many.
Yeah, so to me, it hinges on either them making a move to bring in another striker to get some competition, or we need Calvert-Lewin to get back to his prime form. Otherwise, they're going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah. They need some other help off the striker, though. Not just Maupay, but he should have had a goal where, I can't remember who it was that played it to him, but just blasted a pass to him from 10 yards away. And
it was
in
the
center of his chest. He just shot it out of and he had to try to control it, and then
the fact that he even got a shot off was
impressive.
Okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I was like, dude, oh my god, bro. Yeah,
and I love it because I feel like we always talk about this. The announcers doing the games, I don't know. I always just feel like they kind of understate
everything.
Like a really hard chance. They're like, oh, that guy should have done better. But that was one where the guy was like, damn, that guy fired it in there.
I've also found that I feel like older announcers or older players, when there's a simple volley, they'll be like, oh, such technical skill. This is such a hard skill. It's like every one of the guys in the league can do this. And then it's something, and then I feel like it's something crazy difficult that they just brush over or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, dude, look at that.
Yeah, oh my god, that was an insane touch. Yeah, just to control that enough to get a shot off was impressive.
Yeah. But yeah, they need help. So speaking of, I don't know if we're gonna get into some news later, but there is still rumors floating around that they are looking at Nyanto from Leeds, who they were trying to pursue earlier in the summer window. Supposedly talks were tabled for a while, but the latest rumors is it's heating up again. So the offers are still out there, and maybe they're going to make a move like that to try and get another sort of outside creator, somebody that can run at defenders, create problems, and just create more chances because they're going to need as many chances as they can get when
Yeah,
they can't finish.
he's a good one because he makes things
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
good target. All right, next match. This to me was the performance of the weekend. Newcastle at home for Aston Villa. Both teams had new players. A lot of excitement around both signings, and Newcastle came out firing, absolutely firing. Tonali scored in the 6th minute, almost scored like a
Hmm.
minute later.
Yep.
Oh my god, dude. He looked so good. He looked so good for this team. They ended up winning 5-1. Villa got their signing got a goal, which was awesome for them.
Yep.
A little, silver lining to the big loss, but this Newcastle team looks scary.
Yeah. It's yeah, we talked a lot about Tonali, so it was so awesome to see him get that goal. Kind of, I feel like that could have been a stumbling block. Like, imagine if like he had a bad first game and then he didn't score for like 8 games to start this. Like I could just see
Yeah.
sort of the spiral, the downward spiral that could have happened. So him for just right away, boom, impact immediately in the game, and not even just the beginning, but the whole game,
Huge
all the way
impact.
through. He's huge. He's amazing. So I thought it was the perfect thing that could have happened. And to see how absolutely stoked his teammates were that he scored, I thought was awesome. They were so happy that like he scored and they were so excited. This was the game that really brought it out for me. When I watched this, I was like, the Premier League's back.
Yes. It was so exciting. The fans were so excited. And what I thought was cool, because I watched this game as well, I didn't watch just the highlights, but after Villa scored, the Newcastle crowd got more loud, and like the announcers even called it out, and they were just like, this is what a great fan base does. They are louder now than they were before Villa scored to tie it up 1-1, and they're just telling the team, we support you, we got this, like,
Mhm.
let's go.
Let's
It
go.
was so cool. And they,
So
dude,
awesome.
so all of my worries about Tonali just being depressed and being
Yeah.
in a bad place are out the window, because I feel like the quality of play is gonna just push it through. You know what I mean? And it's just gonna
Yeah.
be so fun to watch. I didn't think he was gonna
Yeah.
get forward as much as he did.
It's great. He's like I thought he was going to have to play more defensive just with the players they have, but he's like a true box to box guy for this team, and it's amazing. It's his perfect position. I just keep him putting him in those spots. He's going to be fantastic this year.
Absolutely, I'm so excited for that team, and I'm mad I didn't put him higher in my preseason rankings.
I put him the lowest of everybody. I was a huge doubter. I
Really,
just
where did
thought
you
there
put
would
him?
be 6 or 7, I think.
I think
Um,
I was fifth. I think I put him fifth. I
yeah,
was too afraid to put him in
I
the
think I
top
was the
four.
lowest. So yeah, so I'm definitely regretting that one. But yeah, obviously a huge beatdown for Aston Villa. It's tough when a team's firing on all cylinders like that. It's
Yeah,
like how bad were Aston Villa. I feel like it's hard to get a true judgment. So I think we'll need to wait to pass judgment until next weekend when they get another game under their belt.
agreed. And they didn't look terrible.
Yeah,
They just got blown out.
steamrolled.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it happens. It happens. Especially first match of the season on the road like
on the
that. Yeah,
road.
tough one. Tough
Yeah,
one. Another good match, Brentford Tottenham, and this is another team that I was excited to watch, as Tottenham without Harry Kane. It was like, how are they gonna look?
hmm
What'd you think?
well, first off, I just have to say I hate these jerseys. I
They
think they're
are really bad.
disgustingly ugly. Uh, but getting that out of the way, I was excited to watch the team just like you. I was. It was cool to see. How are they going to play? Where there's sort of this players that usually have always felt like they need to defer, right, or or get out of the way to be like, no, like this is my chance to step up and my chance to have an impact. And considering all of that, new coach, all the stuff going on, I thought it was a very solid first performance. Brentford's a good team, 2-2 draw. I mean, I feel like you can't be too upset with that from a Tottenham perspective. Obviously, maybe some defensive things to think about, but I thought the style that they played was exciting, and it made me feel very positive about the direction that they're going.
Yeah, I think they'll be just fine. Both teams,
Mm-hmm.
even without Tony for Brentford and without
Yeah,
Kane for Tottenham.
Mbumo is good, dude.
Dude, he's
He's good.
great.
He's good.
He is great. He's like, I got
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, they'll be fine. All right. Next up, Chelsea Liverpool. Probably my most look forward to match going into the week, because
Mm-hmm.
question marks about both teams, how they're going to play, how they're going to line up, and how are the new signings going to do. And I watched this game in its entirety, and it was crazy to me because the first half hour of the match, Liverpool was clearly the better team, just absolutely dominating. And it was like, oh my God, this is bad. Like, they might need to make a change. Chelsea got like a, not, I don't want to say fluky, but just a kind of a scrambling goal and
Mm-hmm.
tied it up 1-1. After that point, Chelsea looked like a different team. And
Yeah.
they were the better team for the rest of the match. But it ended up in a 1-1 draw. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I was right there with you. My most sort of anticipated match of the week, and I think everybody's sort of match of the week. After getting through opening day, I felt feeling themselves out. How do we play? Who's going to fit in with who? So on and so forth. And like you said, there was a phase where it felt like Liverpool was better, and then a phase where it felt like Chelsea was better. So from my perspective, it was about as good of a game I feel like as we could expect with two very high level teams trying to get their feet wet with their new players and situations. So I would, being either team coming out of this, I would feel positivity because you would look at the parts of the game where you dominated or you were stringing things together, and you're going to say, hey, look at what we can do. You're
Yes.
obviously going to have, just like we talked about in the last game, being either team manager coming out of this game.
Yeah, good point. I think both teams can look at this and be like, feel good about themselves, and there's some things to work on. But here's the thing that I
Yeah,
wanted
and
to
we
see is Liverpool came out with a 4-3-3. And three in the middle were Gakpo, McAllister, and Soboslai. They just did it straight across. McAllister in the
mhm.
middle, and then in front of them were Diaz, Jota, and Salah. And I did not anticipate McAllister to be. He kind of just defaulted in like the defensive midfielder, which is a little different for me. He did fine, but it was just like I don't know if it's like his best skill set to play there.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they
I
looked
look
they
at the
looked so
players.
dangerous going forward because he could facilitate
Exactly.
to all those other guys, and it was hard to stop. Chelsea could not stop them if they got the ball. That's what made this game
Yeah.
exciting. Also, it only ended 1-1, but like there was very little like
Yeah.
midfield obstruction. It was just like they got the ball,
I
they're going.
exactly. I mean, if you look at the stats, it tells a lot. Chelsea had 65% possession to 35% for Liverpool, so they were surrendering, sort of controlling the midfield, right, in order to be more dangerous on the press and the counterattack.
Yeah.
So I understand the style. I just think it was a step too far, I would say. Like you were saying, McAllister having to play deeper. It's because you have him alongside Sabuslai and Gakpo, who are
Right.
even less defensive midfielders than him. And he's just a good player that knows where he should be and where the best spot is for him to be on the field. So if he sees a hole, he's going to go plug it, right? So he just had to go do that, even playing as the number 10, because those other guys sure as hell weren't going to go do that. So what I think coming out of this is you can see the positivity of the attack, but I think he's going to come back. Klopp will have to come back to his senses about I can't play the combination of Jota, Gakpo, and Diaz all at the same time. I
Yeah.
think one of those has to come out for another type of midfielder. Whether you choose to push Gakpo up and plug in a midfielder, or you pull out like Jota, whatever it is, right? Or
Which,
pull out Gakpo.
yep.
It's you got to figure that one out.
Which is why they went so hard for Caicedo, because they need that guy.
Exactly.
They
They
need
need
that
that.
guy badly. So
Yeah, it was funny. Maybe there was. It would have been funny if there hadn't been any sort of official communication before this game, but this really was the Caicedo Super Bowl. Whoever won
it
this game
was.
might have got a signature. So
I still can't believe he chose Chelsea over Liverpool. I would never do that. I don't know what his thinking was, but I don't know what he could do. On the other side of the field, this lineup was even crazier to me. Okay, so they basically played three at the back, and then they played two central defenders or central defensive midfielders of
Mhm.
Enzo and Gallagher. And then in front of those two, the whole game in front of those two were Chilwell and James on the outside. They never went below those two, it seemed like. I don't think Chilwell was in a defensive position more than twice. They were
Yeah.
so far up the field, and they were basically touching the touch line the entire time. And then in front of them, they had Sterling and Chukwuemeka, and then Jackson up top.
Hmm.
Jackson looked very, very good. I think he's going to fit in great for
Dangerous.
them. But this
Very dangerous.
this structure was so weird to see Chilwell and James so far forward. I
I
thought,
love it. That's just like Pochettino to a T. Just like inventive. Just like he just knows what to do. Like I feel like it's just like it works. Like he has this like sort of mastermind brain that he's.
yeah, you cut out for a second there, so I'm just going to jump in. But I feel like Chilwell missed. He should have scored to make it 2-1, and he completely choked the touch. I don't know if you saw it on the highlights, but it was
Yeah.
it was a touch you or I would have made. It was pretty bad,
Mm.
and I just wonder. Like I like Chilwell, I think he's really good, but if he's gonna play essentially attacking left mid, I don't know if that's your best option. That's all. Um, but
Yeah.
Chukwuemeka, I think, was probably the odd man out. He was pretty much invisible. Um, Jackson looked good. Sterling looked a little washed to me. We'll see how
And
that
Enzo
goes.
looked fantastic,
Enzo
I
looked
thought.
fantastic. Gallagher looked fantastic. I loved seeing him play defensive midfielder. He was
Hmm.
fantastic at that. So much different than how he played last year. He was tenacious back there. So,
Yeah, Enzo really looked like I don't know. It was like back to the World Cup,
yep.
where it's like
Him and McAllister going against each other was cool.
exactly. Yeah, and I actually have a quote. I'll share the quote now. I was going to share this with you later, but from out of this game. So there was actually a quote from McAllister after the game. So there's a picture of the two of them together swapping jerseys, and somebody interviewed McAllister, and he said Enzo Fernandez today showed why they paid what they paid for him.
Nice.
He was the best player on the pitch. So
Oh, okay.
high praise from
High
McAllister.
praise.
Obviously a teammate though, but no, but it you could see it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's so young.
No, he's
It's
got it.
just he was somebody that was actually worth the money. Some of these crazy transfers we talk about,
Yep.
it feels like that's one that probably the potential that right valuation was arrived at for what he should cost.
No doubt. All right, last game of the week. Man United, after every
Ooh,
single person on earth in the transfer window, ended up with Mason Mount and Onana, just title aspirations, and they come out at home against Wolves, and Wolves, to me, outplayed them.
hmm
Possession was like 50-50, but like Wolves had the better chances by far. They could have
easy.
easily won this game. And Man United snuck out with a 1-0 victory with that Varane header at the end of the match. But they
Yep.
can't be. Man United fans have to be nervous after this, right?
Oh, for sure. And you got to be so stoked if you're a Wolves fan with
Oh,
so much
yeah.
sort of depression going in. Everything that happened in the offseason. We never talked about it because it wasn't really announced till last minute, I don't think. But bringing in Gary O'Neill was a masterful move. at manager. He just did fantastic things with Bournemouth last season with a limited lineup, limited players, not just avoiding relegation, but like with a comfortable margin of safety avoiding relegation. So I think it's the perfect type of guy to bring in, somebody that's done it, right? It isn't like some hopeful young guy that hasn't been there. This guy's been there and done it. And the team was ready to go today. They were ready to play. Cunha, who I was a huge
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
insane. That looked like the full man you should be going after,
Yes.
not any of these other guys.
Dude, forget Mason Mount. You should have got Cunha. Dude, this guy was so. I hadn't seen him play like at all, but he came from Atletico.
Well, he came. He was on loan last year at Wolves, and he never. I swear, he never looked like he looked today. Whether it was there was too many other players around.
How many games did he play?
I'm not sure. I mean, he came in the back part of the season, but it always felt like he was only playing. You know, he would come in as a substitute, right, or he would play half a game. He was always like played as there was always another striker out there with him, right? Like him, you know, like he never was the main guy. And putting him in this kind of role where like you are the guy, he showed what he can do.
He looked like the guy.
Stick with that. Stick with that.
Good Lord, he looked amazing. He was making some runs, just weaving past players. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So I was down on Wolves going into the year. This makes me feel confident that they have a team capable of staying up comfortably.
Yeah, so I do have a stat. So just to explain how well Wolves played. So this is from Opta and Analyst, which is a sort of a soccer analyst website. But they said Wolves' tally of 23 shots tonight was the second most in a Premier League away game at Old Trafford in recorded history.
Yeah.
So literally the only other team that had more shots was Chelsea in 2005, had 25 shots on the road at Old Trafford. There was the second most shots of any team that's
and
played
they
at Old
didn't
Trafford.
score one.
And
it's going to sting. They're going to go look back at this and be like, how do we not get any points in that?
How do you not get a tie out of this? Yeah.
Brutal.
Or anything. So there was, at the end of the game, I'm sure you saw, but there was a huge sort of controversy with a penalty that was not awarded when Onana came out and just smashed into one of the Wolves players.
That should have been a penalty.
Should have been a penalty, and it turns out after I just saw this news that the Premier League goalie consultant John Moss actually came and talked to the manager after the game and said it was a mistake and it should have been a penalty. So not only is it just a controversy, it's actually now been
Man United. Why is it always Man United that gets it?
Always
you know
Man United, dude. That's why when we were doing our picks, man, I was like, bullshit. I swear to God, I don't think they're this good. But they'll be playing like shit, and all of a sudden they're going to be fucking in third place in the league. This always fucking happens.
They have some.
That's why I put them in third place in the league. I was like, they're going to not be deserving of it, but they're just going to be there somehow. That's just it's guaranteed.
It's like in basketball when the best player, not all the best players, but like LeBron James gets these phantom calls all the time.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. It's kind of like Man United is that as a club where it's just like, oh, it's Man United. Like in Old Trafford, you can't go against them like that. I don't know. But that should have been a penalty. I'm all for goalies being able to come out and have the right way to get the ball, but he wasn't even close to getting the ball.
Yeah.
It was
exactly.
It was like he just took the guy out completely. No chance of getting to the ball. It should have been a foul.
And I feel like it sets a bad sort of precedent too. I mean, goalies now are going to be even more aggressive coming out because they're going to be like, oh, I don't need to even worry about getting a penalty now. Yeah. I'm just going to go balls to the wall straight into this guy. So I don't think it was good in multiple ways.
Yeah, really bad call. Really bad call. So Man United lucked out. They got their 3 points and they'll move on. And that was week 1 in the books.
Yeah. Week 1 in the book. So quickly before we move on, we missed this at the start of the show, but I wanted to do our traditional start of the show drinks that we missed. There was one late red card in the Burnley game. So there's a drink right there for both of us. And then Pick'ems, I was able to edge out second place in the new Pick'ems league that we have going. Austin, you are in fourth. So I'll give you a sip there. And then in fantasy, for the first time in
I'm
what
already
feels
taking
like
it.
an entire season, I was able to finish first for a week in fantasy with 86 points. And Austin, you were in fifth with 71. So I'll give you another drink, which you already took.
New year
And
for you.
starting this week, moving forward, we will be doing our prop bets again. So we forgot about it for week one, but we will be bringing those back. So there will be some drinks on the line every week when we pick underdogs in certain games for the following weekend.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's get into news and transfers. The transfer window still going, even though the season started, and it has not slowed down. Caicedo pulls the plug on Liverpool and says, "I'm only going to Chelsea." It looks like that is a done deal. 115 million pounds, I saw, just insane amount of money, and it makes me think
Yep.
he would fit well into that Gallagher spot, and Gallagher could move up or whatever. But I don't know why he chose Chelsea over Liverpool. I still won't understand that.
I feel like there's two factors at play. One is they're probably healthier financially in the sense of they can pay higher wages. And two, I don't think we could underestimate the impact of being able to live in London versus living in the Northwest. I think there's players, especially maybe players from South America or the Mediterranean or other places where they're like, I don't want to go live in the dark, dreary Northwest. I want to be in a big city. I want to be in London. I really think that could have a big impact on some of these guys.
You're
And
making it
we
sound
don't
like
see it.
London's this tropical destination.
But it's a big city. There's more shit going on. There's
I'll give you
more
that.
clubs.
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely
There's
nightlife.
probably more extracurricular activities going on.
Yeah.
There's a
fair
bunch
enough.
of other players from other teams there.
If
It's
that's the
just
reason he went with it, I don't like him.
I'm just
That's not my
saying.
type of guy. But
I'm just saying.
you're
I'm
right.
just saying.
It could definitely
it could be an
factor.
impact.
Yep. No, you're probably right. And Chelsea also added another midfielder, youngster Lavia from Southampton. This dude really shined last year. What is he, like 18, 19, something crazy like that?
19, I believe. Yeah.
He's definitely not going to jump into the starting lineup, but he's
Yeah.
going to be
Huge.
good.
Huge potential.
Oh
Yep.
my god. I don't know how he doesn't crack the lineup by the end of the year or start of next season.
Start of next season. Yeah.
Great pick.
He's so young. Yeah. So I think great business to get in on somebody like that early. Somebody else that also was potentially on Liverpool's radar as well. That was
I know Liverpool
also
is getting
said no.
sniped. This is crazy.
They're getting just taking strays constantly, dude.
Killing me, man. I love Liverpool. Okay, this bit of news I just saw before we tuned in, but Adama Traore to Fulham. Two of my teams right there. I love Traore.
I like it.
And
if we have to say goodbye to Willian, what a great
Willian
guy
played.
to come in.
Willian played.
Oh, he's still there.
He's
I
still
didn't
there.
realize
Yeah,
he was
no,
there.
he's on the left side.
Oh.
No, that's what I was going to say. And Mitrovic played, which was weird. Mitrovic played like 30 minutes.
It's looking like he's gone. Well, when we did the transfer show, Willian, I thought he was still a free agent.
I know, but he was on the team, so I don't know. Maybe they figured it out and we didn't see the news. But yeah, he was
shit.
on the left.
Okay.
So if we can have Willian on the left and Traore on the right, with our boy Ream and Robinson in the back,
I like it, dude.
My team,
even better, dude.
I will say, I just named two Americans. That's a double drink.
Drink.
But Ream did not look good today.
He looked a little slow.
He looked, and he gave away two horrible passes. I'm hoping he's just not in game shape and he'll get.
Yeah, I think he's just rusty.
But he's an old dude. He's like our age.
Yeah, I think he was just a little rusty, to be honest, man. Coming back from a decently long injury, first game of the season.
Yeah,
I'm still hopeful.
We'll give him a pass. All right. Tell us about Nicola Zaniolo, your Italian brethren.
So a loan deal has been agreed for Aston Villa to take Zaniolo from Roma. I believe there's extensive terms in there for him to eventually become a permanent transfer. I'm not sure what the logistics are of that. But this is the exciting types of moves that we just see, these mid to bottom half of the top half Premier League teams able to make. They're able to go swoop these what are essentially stars from other leagues, right? Stars for some of these teams. Zaniolo is probably the second or third, biggest player on a team like Roma, and they're able to snag this guy and bring him into the Premier League just like that. I think it's a great move. Somebody that's had a lot of struggles with injuries in the past, but I think if you can not lean on him, right, you bring him in as like a guy that you spell with other guys. You're not looking to him to do everything and play 90 minutes every game. I think it's a great type of guy to bring into the team. Somebody that has past experience. He's played at very high levels, both in Serie A and for the national team. So I think it's the right type of guy for them to be bringing in. It's the right sort of tier level of skill and cost for a team like Aston Villa to go and get.
Do you think he can play with Watkins at the same time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
I think he can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it might take a little bit of time to mesh, but I feel like Watkins is like, he's just kind of like a poacher. Like, he's just kind of like a scavenger. I feel like he can eventually fit in with pretty much anybody. He's just going to be in there. He's going to be causing problems.
Yeah.
And Zaniolo, I think, is going to actually be more creative. But Watkins is just kind of, he's going to be there just to pick up the scraps when Zaniolo creates it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be cool to see. And then lastly, Jack Harrison to Everton on a loan. Jack Harrison from Leeds. And cool. Everton made a move. Proud of you. We'll see how it goes.
Good job.
Yeah. Good job.
You did something.
All right. Italian section of
it just reminds me of that meme. I don't know if you've seen it.
What?
Where it's like some dude like poking a dude on the ground and he's like, do something. He's just like poking it with a stick. I just feel like that's Everton with every fan just like being,
Everton jersey.
Do something, dude. They did something.
They did something. I mean, it was Jack Harrison. Could have been something bigger, but hey, you did something. Good job.
Good job.
All right, we've reached the Italian section of our transfer news.
Oh, yeah.
Arnautovic. Apparently, he's still playing. He's going to Inter. And then Paredes and Renato Sanchez, both to Roma.
Ooh.
I think those are two good pickups for Roma.
Yeah.
Sanchez was on loan. So I don't know why.
I think just like with Zaniolo, I think there's an option to buy though. I think if he plays like 60% of the games or something, they have to buy him. Something like that.
He's a good player though. I like him.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great type of person to bring in. Paredes, I think, is just probably the perfect type of attitude for that team. But I really like the Renato Sanchez. I think that's a great gamble to take.
Yeah, same. And then Roberto Mancini resigns as Italy manager. Resigns.
Yeah. Take a hike. Yep.
Yeah. I'm surprised he made it as long as he did when they didn't make the World Cup. I don't know how that's not like an instant can, but
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, man, I don't know what Italian national team's been doing the last 5 years. They've been good in the Euros, which is
I mean, I know
frustrating.
I mean, that's why he was still there, right? You win the Euros. I that's the only reasoning or excuse why he was still there, right? Yeah. But I think it was time for a change after the last round of disappointments. So the current rumor is that recently departed Napoli manager Spalletti is going to be the next in line here. Probably something to do with why he was moving on from Napoli to begin with. So obviously very much sort of in the rumor mill category,
and that could be some exciting Italian football.
Many signs pointing towards that, and I think that's a great move. I think it's the right type of personality they need, the right type of style of play. I feel like you're always, with Italian teams, you're always going to have sort of the positional and technical prowess just built in because they're Italian, and that's how they know how to play. So I feel like you need a manager that doesn't just lean on that, but is like, hey, I know you guys can do all that well, but let's do this other stuff. Let's work on these positions and this strategy and this technique where we can actually create really exciting soccer. And then you always have, your old roots to fall back on, right? Yeah. If you need it. So I think it'll be the perfect combo.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good point. Okay. Neymar officially went to Saudi Arabia. I ask you one question. Do you care?
Um, I I'm kind of excited to see him not on PSG because maybe it'll make Mbappe actually play, which I'm sure we'll talk about. The reason why I do care is that it just pisses me off that this guy is going to go there and get paid 320 million euros. It's just like that's the only reason why I care. I don't really care that he's there in terms of soccer, but it just pisses me off a little bit.
Yeah.
So
His whole career, like his career's over now. It's done.
yeah, it's done.
It, he never made it like how do I say this? He never got to the point to where his potential and his pay said he would get to. You know what I mean? Like
He never reached his potential.
He was always overrated. I guess that's the most simple way to put it. Always overrated.
Always injured when it mattered most. Always a complainer when it was least needed for the team.
Horrible team player.
And always ended up on the bad side of either the fans or the team by the end of his tenure. It's the same recipe everywhere.
Selfish
he goes,
player.
So. Yep.
Like just never did anything. Never did anything. The only thing he won was when he was at Barcelona, where he was maybe a top 5 guy on that team.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think he's overrated to say the least. And see you later. Cheers to you.
It's a perfect final act for his career, I feel like.
Absolutely.
I just wish it wasn't for as much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned it, Mbappe. He's back with PSG. According to the owner and Mbappe, they had some discussions, and everything's all good now. He's back with the squad. He's going to play. So what the fuck happened in those discussions?
Well, no, supposedly I saw some rumors posted that there was a significant impact with Neymar leaving, that there was major cohesion issues behind the scenes between the two of them, to the point where Mbappe had said, I will not be back if this guy's on the team. So that may have accelerated the speed at which these talks happened and the move officially happened. And there probably is not that much coincidence with him showing up basically the same day that all of this Neymar news was announced. So
it makes me like Mbappe even more.
I'm tending to lean towards those rumors being true because all signs point to that.
Dude, he is. I said it before. Neymar is the Kyrie Irving of soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know who Kyrie Irving is, it's okay. He's Neymar, but he plays basketball.
Exactly.
It's the same guy. All right.
The only thing I will say, though, is for some reason, NBA players all seem to want Kyrie on their team.
That is okay. That's the one difference.
I
but they shouldn't.
A lot of soccer players don't want Neymar on their team.
But I bet you a lot of young players are like, damn, Neymar. Oh,
Neymar.
Dap him up.
Yeah.
Get your jersey after the game. It's the same shit.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I bet that's it.
Mm-hmm. But in reality, you don't want this dude on your team.
You don't. You don't.
Okay, Oxlade-Chamberlain, you mentioned, went to Besiktas.
Yep.
Apparently he was owned by
finally out of the Premier League.
Yep. I always liked him. I thought he never got the chance that he should. I would have loved to see him on like a Crystal Palace, a mid-level team where he could just play every day. But on the top clubs, he was just a tier below. But that's okay.
Yep.
But I really liked him. It's a bummer he's out of Premier League. Okay, Union Berlin. Gossens. I love Gossens.
Yeah.
But they got Gossens from Inter, and they're strengthening their squad. They got Aronson over there. They're in the Champions League.
Yep.
Drink.
Drink. Oh, yeah.
I love to see it.
I like it. Yeah, no, I think it's a good move for a team that's, got to compete in more intense competition this year. Somebody that's proven and somebody that's also plays for Germany. I think it's just a win-win situation, I think, for somebody like that to move over. So smart business by him.
This one I put in just for me. But
okay. Hit me with it.
Dimitri Payet signed with Vasco da Gama in Brazil, and he refused to go to any other French team out of respect for Marseille.
My guy.
And I was like, I knew I picked the right guy, dude. I knew I picked him. Like, I was always a Dimitri Payet fan, dude. It just makes me like him even more. Like,
I know,
my
it's
fucking
awesome.
guy.
I love that, dude.
Yeah,
He's the
so
best,
awesome.
man.
It's sad to see his
That's
career
great.
is like basically coming to a close. He's gonna go play in Brazil, have some fun. But he was a
Yep.
great player. He was on my favorite starting 11, and he will remain there.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to our official rumors section. So everything we were talking about so far is either very close to reality or already confirmed to have occurred. But on the rumor side of things, there's still a lot of rumors floating around with the transfer window still open as we begin the season. So first on the list here, we have Man City still showing major interest in Paqueta. We mentioned that briefly earlier when we talked through West Ham. Supposedly their initial offer of 70 million pounds, I believe, was rejected. But the latest rumors that they are willing to come back with much more money to try and get his signature. So not sure what the next deal or next offer range is going to be in. But I don't think we've heard the end of Paqueta moving on. And you mentioned that there were some other teams that were interested. I hadn't officially heard which teams, but
Well, I think
there probably are several other suitors.
it was just that bullshit. Like, oh, Man United's interested,
Yeah,
Chelsea's
they just
interested.
throw out
You
their
know,
name
like
out there.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
agents are just dropping things left and right to like try to get the asking price up. But yeah, I hope he stays. I don't want him to go.
Yeah. I know. I feel like get another season under your belt in the Premier League before making a move like that. Like you just got your feet wet.
Yeah, stay with the team.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
all up to him. I get that, but I would like to see that.
It's so hard to turn out, if there's an opportunity for a longer contract or more money or whatever, I get it. But I don't know. If it was me, I'm thinking of me in like whatever the profession is, whether it's soccer or something else, but it's like when you're not ready for the big time, and you want more experience under your belt,
Yeah, but
getting ready for the big time.
you're a rational person,
And
though. You're not a what? How old is he? He actually looks older than he is. But
yeah.
when you're super
Yeah,
young and you think you're the star of the world, like
I'm not
it's
somebody that's
tougher.
always won every game I've ever played in my life in a
Exactly.
sport. So
Close though, close.
yeah, don't listen to me, Paqueta. I'm an idiot, dude. Oh man.
But I hope he
Moving on to
stays.
the next rumor we have. So there was a little bit of sad news with the official announcement of Caicedo going to Chelsea. We had heard when it was first announced that Caicedo may be going to Liverpool, that Tyler Adams was going to be a fill-in for the hole that he was going to leave at Chelsea.
God, yeah.
Turns out Caicedo is going to Chelsea. So the latest news is that Bournemouth is actually interested in Tyler Adams, and that they're supposedly have said they're willing to pay his release clause, which I think is in the 20 million pound range, something like that, 25 million, 20. I don't know anything more besides that, just that they're showing interest and that they're willing to pay. But what are your thoughts on that potentially happening in the near future?
I'd love to see him back in the Premier League. Obviously, I'm drinking for him, and
Drink.
he could help any club, even a top club. I think
Yeah.
he could help. And I'm glad I saw Bournemouth play before I got this news, because if I would have heard this news prior, if they signed him prior, I would have been like, man, wish he went to a better club. But they looked strong, and I think he could help them get better. So as long as he's in the Premier League and we get to watch him every week, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So he's still out injured. So I think it's unclear exactly when he'll be back. He's still 3 weeks away from actually even starting training again. So that he could be still, potentially 2 months out from actually playing. So we're not going to see him, we're not going to see, him, even if he were to make a transfer, see him immediately. But I think it'd be very wise for a team to load up on him now if they can. And a team like Bournemouth that could really use somebody like that. He was one of Leeds' best players. If he had not got hurt, I think there's a strong likelihood they could have stayed up. And he was so critical to that team.
Fixed so many defensive errors that they had. Like, he plugged so many holes for them. It was crazy.
Yeah. Next rumor on the list. So Man U didn't have enough of after signing one Onana. They're actually looking out for a second Onana from Everton, the defensive midfielder who is, some would say, the best player, probably the best raw
I would say
talent,
that. I would say that.
or best, at least best potential for of players on Everton. Continuing to look for ways to strengthen their midfield. They do have some aging players, and maybe some holes they'll need to fill, or some squad depth that they'll need. I think this is a great direction to take, a great player to pick up and add to a team. He's got the body type, the athleticism. It's like take like Paul Pogba's body and then make him a defensive midfielder. I feel like he just has that sort of build where he can position against players and win one-on-one duels. I think it'd be a great move for a team like that. Load up on somebody like that, try to get them at a discount from a team that's desperate to get any money they can probably into their pockets. So we'll see what happens there. And then tell me about the Mitrovic
Onana
news.
or Mount.
Give me an Onana.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But no discussion there. Like, even if you think he wasn't, like, he isn't good enough, you pay that much money, you have to play that guy.
yeah.
So
which is stupid.
It's stupid, but that's just the way it is, right? So I don't even.
But eventually you
like,
don't.
That's not even.
AKA Harry Maguire. Like, he played longer than he should have, but then it was just like, this is detrimental to the team. And when you're that competitive, to stay at the top, the hook is quick. So
True.
he better watch out. I'm just saying, I could see it going the other way fast. Where he's like, I think he's a great player, but I don't know if he's a Man United starter.
It's just there's too much spotlight, I feel like.
That's all. It's kind of, I feel like I'm throwing shade at him, but I just don't. If they want to get to the next level, he's not going to take them there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I don't see that. Unless you're just going for the English, approach, right? Where it's like we want the big English names to hold the fan base. Maybe I see that, but that's about it. Like, he isn't at the level of somebody else at the very top of world football that plays the same position,
Yeah. All right, last one. What was it? Oh, Mitrovic to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
This one, man, he played. They played him.
He subbed in, right?
Yeah. It blew my mind. It's like, okay, so maybe he's not leaving. So I don't know.
I saw one news article that said it was a done deal, that everything had been agreed and he was out. So far as a Photoshop jersey shot with him in the jersey. But I also saw multiple articles that said Fulham are confident that he will return, even though talks are still ongoing. So this is a total coin flip, I think, right now.
It's so crazy.
And I think it's hilarious that he played.
Yeah.
So many of these other sort of coin flip situations.
Key contributor in the goal.
Yeah.
He had the hockey assist. He assist. He basically played the through ball.
He played the through ball, yeah.
Played him into space.
Yeah.
He created that goal.
Yep.
And then the guy crossed it over, and it was like, you got to keep this guy. He's so good.
He's so good.
But Saudi Arabia's going to pay 7 times more than he's valued.
They're going to pay him so much money.
And
yeah.
Fulham's going to have to say yes, and then hopefully sign some other players with that money. But
exactly.
It's such a weird situation with this Saudi Arabia thing.
Yeah, it's we talked about it before, whether it's good or bad, or if it bothers us or not. But
it bothers me, but I don't know if it's bad. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, so say they go and steal a player a year before they reach their decline, right? There's just going to be some other phenomenal, player coming up that's super young that's going to fill the spots, right? So it's like, it probably isn't a bad thing from like a competitive, right, or a a player standpoint, even, right? For the players, it's probably great. It gives more opportunities
Oh
to
yeah, to
young
get more
players,
money.
and these big guys going to get paid, right? So it's probably not. It's not a net negative for the players or for the competitiveness of the game, but I feel like it's a net negative for fans that are fans of certain players on their teams, right? To see your favorite player go and
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
when in the past they probably would have stayed there their whole career. Jordan Henderson, perfect example.
yes.
That fool 10 years ago, that fool would have retired. He would have been there, 2, 3 more years.
James Milner.
Um, exactly. He would have saw his career out at Liverpool and retired. And it
Actually,
creates
he's
a
still
much
there.
more sort of ugly departure for some of these legends of clubs, I feel like,
Yeah.
because they'd be stupid to not go and take the money, right? It's like you can't
Oh,
blame them,
I don't
but
blame the players
but
at
it
all. I do
but I get it.
blame.
If you're a hardcore fan and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, I get it. I get that too.
Yeah, it does leave a sour taste in my mouth, but I think I'm trying to look at this with a positive outlook. And I think, like you said, it's gonna push for young, talented players to get more opportunity where maybe it
Exactly.
wasn't there before. It's almost
Hmm.
like it's like a it's like a nature show where the lions pick off like the weak, old wildebeest from the herd, and
Hmm.
I think that's what Saudi Arabia is just finding like the over the hill stars that actually aren't as good as you think they are anymore and just plucking them out
Yeah.
of the herd, and then we get to see
Hmm.
the young guys. The only time it's sad and depressing is when they snag a young in his prime
Yeah. Yeah.
wildebeest and you're like, "Fuck. We're not going to be able to
Yeah.
see him play anymore."
That does suck.
When
Yep.
the other
Hmm.
guys you're like, "Okay, I saw his best. He can go retire and make his money. Good for him." That's kind of
But
how
we
I see
also
it.
but I also want to make sure we're not being hypocritical because we also talked about this from the MLS perspective when we had a
Oh,
few, I forget when we did, right? And it was like, what is the best thing the MLS could do? Is go sign young guys that are in their prime, right? So I get the approach and the strategy. It's just there's always going to be people like us that are just sad to see it happen, you know?
yeah, they're MLS Middle East for sure, and they're
Exactly.
doing it
Yep.
at exponentially more than the MLS did. But this league, I'll say the same thing. If this league wants to be a legitimate league, you need to start signing players in their prime and players right before their prime. And until you do, you're not going to be a top league. Simple as that.
Hmm.
MLS is not a top
Exactly.
league. So,
True. Got a ways to go.
yes, they do. That
And
was
a
a good.
mention of MLS
Oh, another
was one of
drink.
our
There
original
we
drinking
go.
rules. So, so we'll take a drink.
It rarely happens. I forgot about that rule.
Yeah.
Um, well, that was a good Saudi Arabia
All
rant.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little
What's the
segue.
last rumor?
The last rumor is something I think we briefly mentioned before, but the latest news is that Barcelona seems to be the front runner to potentially make an offer and sign Cancelo for Man City. Obviously, he's been on the outs with Pep since last year. Went out on loan, thought he was moving permanently, ended up coming back. I'm sure it's a very awkward situation currently. He did get played in preseason, obviously, just in an effort to try and find a suitor. But the sooner he's out, the better, I think, for all parties involved. But
Yeah.
Barcelona seems to be the front runner. They're looking to make a bid for loan that will turn into permanent transfer. Um,
Is he
I
not
feel
the
like if you're,
perfect Barcelona player?
I was going to say, I feel like if you're Cancelo, like this is the opportunity. This is you can't really ask for a better
It's like
opportunity. I don't
this
think
team was
he is the
made for
right type
you.
of guy.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's gonna happen.
They'll let
That'll
you,
happen.
they'll let you play wherever you want,
And like you said,
and
all parties involved will be better for it.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be checking in on all those rumors. A lot is going to change in the next week, I'm sure. So
Yeah, it's
we'll
crazy.
be checking in on all of these.
Okay, you used your quote already. I don't have a quote for
I
you,
did.
but
Yeah.
I have a question that was posed on another soccer podcast. I don't remember what it's called, so I can't give it credit. But it was, what is a soccer take that you hear, and the minute you hear it, you think, okay, this guy knows nothing about soccer?
Wow, put me on the spot.
Yeah, no, I did. I didn't prep you for this at all. I'll give you, while you
Uh,
think about it, I'll give you
yeah.
what one of the guys said that I totally agreed with.
Okay.
He's like, when I hear someone say Cristiano Ronaldo is better than Messi, I immediately think they don't know anything about soccer. And I was like, that is so true. That is so, so true. I'll give you mine that I'll think of, that I
Okay.
already thought of. Mine is when I hear someone, it's always an American. When I hear someone say, "Oh, if LeBron James played soccer, he'd be the best player in the world. If any of the NBA guys played soccer, they'd be the best player." And I immediately am like, "You don't know anything about soccer then whatsoever." He can be an insane athlete, but at 6'9", there is zero chance he's going to be a
Yeah.
world-class soccer player. You just can't. You can't be quick enough with your feet.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure. Yeah. I guess what immediately jumped into my head, I agree with that 100%. That speaking of, and mine also comes from sort of the American standpoint, is because I feel like you'll hear people say this stuff, and the classic American response is like, "Oh, it wasn't there wasn't enough scoring," or
yeah,
like the game's boring because there was a tie. Those types of things to me are like you don't actually understand,
yep,
it's tough for me because it a little bit doesn't make sense for me because there are sports in America, a la hockey, where you can tie. You can have a tie,
it's almost like the exact same
or
scoring too.
exactly. So it's not like this is that foreign of a concept, but that to me is always just like I'm always just like I'm just not even gonna continue
Yeah,
the
they don't even
there's
have an open door. It's just
exactly.
yeah.
And I'm just like okay, yeah, all right, sounds good,
That's
dude.
a good one. That's exactly right. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, yeah, because literally I remember we talked about it last year. I think it was that it was the Tottenham Chelsea when it was Conte against Tuchel, a 2-2 tie. That was one of the most
Oh
like action
yeah,
packed crazy
intense,
games.
intense.
It's so intense. Red cards, like it was like this game was like the equivalent of like four NBA games in one game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an American is just like, oh, they tied,
Yeah,
you know. So it was boring. It's like, nah,
yeah.
nah, you
Think
don't
you're an
watch.
idiot.
You look at the scoreboard act.
I heard a comedian say, and I had never thought of this before, but it was like, "Hey, idiot, American football fan, like, just imagine a goal in soccer is worth 7 points. They
Yeah,
won 21-14. Like there was a ton of
yeah,
scoring, you know? Like
yeah.
you won your game 3-2 or 3-2 and a
That's like,
half. Like,
dude, that is fantastic analogy.
right? It's like
Fantastic.
it's the same amount of scoring. You just have way
I
more
get
points for
I
your
get the
scoring.
argument if you're talking about maybe baseball or basketball, right? Where it's like, yeah, there's more
But
scoring.
it's usually
But
football
football,
guy that says that.
that's a perfect way to break it down.
Yeah.
It's like that's it to a T.
That is football guy just not even open to the fact that soccer is a legitimate sport. That's
I'm ready. I'm ready to use that
now
if
you
I
have
ever encounter this
ammunition. Now you
situation.
have ammunition.
I'm ready. I'm ready to fire away.
Yeah, it's so especially last year NFL scoring was down, and I feel like soccer scoring is kind of increasing a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I was going to mention. You speaking of scoring being up, is I have a theory that I guarantee the bookies aren't up on yet. Is that because the stoppage time is full and complete, there is way more time in a match, and
Sure.
scoring should increase. And I guarantee it's still
We're
getting the
we're
same
betting overs,
spreads.
dude.
I think if
We're
we bet
betting overs.
every over, that you're gonna make money. Is this not a genius solution or not?
Oh, it's a fantastic, dude. This is amazing. Yeah, and speaking of, great segue into our outro and teaser for our next episode. We're going to be doing the pre-show for next weekend in the Premier League, and there's going to be some betting discussion. We are going to get some bets out that we like on paper to see how we do, and I love that approach. I think that is a fantastic breakdown
Let's do it,
that
dude.
people are
That's what
not
I'm saying. Like the bookies will get it right, but there's going to be a time period of adjustment. I feel like this first week, if you just hammer the overs, going to clean
for
up.
sure. 100%. Yeah, I'd be curious if we could go back and look and see what the overs were and actually do a breakdown across the games. But I love it. Now you're getting me excited. I'm
Right?
ready to bet.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. Well, we'll be back on
Awesome.
Thursday and preview next week's matches and hopefully get some bets in. We just gave away a few.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we'll do our picks and continue getting more and more excited as we get deeper into the season.
And
So
maybe
I'm stoked to talk to you on
maybe
Thursday.
we could see if we can get our Tottenham correspondent to join as well. We'll see.
Oh yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
We'll get his first week impressions from what he saw. So
All right, man. I'll see you on Thursday.
that's good. All right, dude. I'll see you
Cheers.
Thursday. Cheers.